Who doesn't love breakfast pastries? And today I'm coming at you with two of my favorite things, coffee cake and blueberry muffins. I'm going to combine them together into some beautiful jumbo muffins that are going to taste incredible. Let's get our bowls on. Bowls everywhere. Okay, I know this looks like a lot, but actually this recipe is really simple. We just have some extra steps that are gonna add some extra flavor to the final muffin, and it's gonna make it look really good. So I'm gonna start things off with our cinnamon filling. And this is just brown sugar with cinnamon that I'm gonna mix together. Just get it combined. This is gonna go in between our layers of batter in the muffin, and it's gonna add an extra hit of cinnamon and sweetness. It's gonna be delicious. All right, beautiful, done. And our next step is our crumb topping. You know how you see in those beautiful pastry displays that crumb topping on top of the muffins? That's what we're making today. So we're gonna add brown sugar and cinnamon to a bowl, and I'm gonna stir these together. And I feel like the crumb topping reminds me a lot of coffee cake. I feel like when you have a really delicious coffee cape, when you're wearing your coffee cape around in the morning made of coffee filters, I think it adds that extra special touch to the muffin that gives it that coffee cake feel. So we stirred that brown sugar and cinnamon together, and next I'm gonna add some cubed butter. Tip here, make sure your butter is really cold, because when you stir it in, you want it to remain cold so that it'll crumble. And we're just gonna stir this together until all the ingredients are combined. And just use your fork, just mash it in there. You just really don't wanna have huge chunks of butter. You want it to look more crumbled. Okay, perfect. So it looks nice and crumbly. We have our butter mixed in. That looks great. Okay, now I'm gonna move on to our wet ingredients. And like I've talked about on other episodes, when you're baking, you really wanna mix your wet ingredients and then your dry ingredients and then bring them together. It's gonna make it easier on you as a baker, and it's gonna taste really good. So I have whole milk, vegetable oil, and I'm gonna crack an egg in here. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Oh snap, that worked. So we're gonna whisk all these wet ingredients together just until they're combined. It's a cool whisk, isn't it? It looks like a World Series trophy. I actually didn't know that. I don't know a ton about baseball. Okay, that's mixed together. So we have our cinnamon filling, we have our crumble topping, our wet ingredients mixed together, and now we're gonna do our dry ingredients. So I have all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, and more brown sugar that we're just gonna whisk together until combined. And I love that you're doing this all by hand. It kind of makes it feel like you're really in the kitchen doing something big, or jumbo as they say. So you really wanna mix this together until there's no big chunks of sugar in your dry ingredients. Like this guy will not fly. We gotta keep on mixing that together. And the great thing about this too is because we're making it by hand, you get a little bit less of the flour flying everywhere, like when you use a mixer, and it can go everywhere if you put it on high speed. Not that I've ever done that before. I've actually done that several times. So this kind of lets you control it a little bit more. Okay, that's all whisked together. And then our final step is we have these beautiful fresh blueberries, and we added about a tablespoon of flour to them. So when you look at a recipe, if there's a fruit in the muffin, in the cupcake, you don't want to sink to the bottom, you can actually toss it with flour. So what I did here is when I measured out my flour, I just took a tablespoon out of the flour I already measured and tossed it in with the blueberries. And what this does is it makes sure that our blueberries won't sink to the bottom of our muffins. That way you can get a little bit of blueberry in every bite. Okay, so those are all tossed together. We're gonna add our wet ingredients to our dry. So we're gonna take our egg, milk, oil mixture, pour that in. Stir this together till it's combined. One tip when you make muffins is you really don't wanna overmix the batter, because it can make your muffins tough. And the opposite of a good muffin is a tough muffin. So we want these to be fluffy and delicious. So just kind of barely mix it together until you no longer see ribbons of flour in your batter. This looks great. And this is a nice loose batter. It's gonna bake up really beautifully. Okay, we're gonna add our blueberries, stir these in. You really just wanna stir it in until the blueberries all get covered with the batter and you don't see any remaining big pieces of flour. Okay, so this looks great. So now it's time to assemble our muffins. So I'm gonna bring in our jumbo muffin tin that's been lined with paper liners. So you can just buy those online. Make sure that they're the bigger size and you don't get the regular liners. These are the jumbo size. So the way we're gonna do this is we're gonna put 1/4 cup of our batter in the bottom of each of our muffin tin liners. The reason why I'm measuring this is so that the muffins stay nice and beautifully domed on top and they don't overfill. This keeps it cleaner, less mess, especially if you're cooking with little ones. This makes it easier just to have it measured. And because we toss those blueberries in flour, they're gonna stay up towards the middle and they won't sink to the bottom. One more scoop. Okay, next for our little surprise element is our cinnamon filling. So we're just gonna take the cinnamon filling that we made earlier, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it in the center of our muffins. Kind of like the idea of when you get like a cinnamon swirl coffee cake, you have cinnamon running through the middle of the coffee cake. It's kind of the similar idea with these muffins. And don't be afraid to use all of this filling. I'll probably go back through and divide it among these guys. And it's okay if you have bigger chunks of sugar here, that's totally cool. You just really want it to be more dissolved in the dry ingredients. Okay, we're gonna top this off with the remaining batter. Again, about 1/4 cup of the wet batter on top. These are gonna taste so good. That looks awesome. Okay, so those are done. And then one of our final steps, we're gonna add this crumb topping onto the top of each of the muffins. So what I like to do is just kind of use your hands and just kind of gently add some crumbs to the top. And the butter might have gotten a little bit soft by now, and that's okay. Just wanna kind of spread it around. This will add that extra coffee cake vibe to the muffins and some extra flavor with the cinnamon. That looks great. Okay, now for our final step for our muffins. This is gonna make them taste amazing. The presentation is gonna be really pretty. We're gonna top these muffins with fresh blueberries. So just sporadically place them on top. However you wanna place them, you do you. Just a little extra berry flavor. They'll look really pretty. A tip here, adding the blueberries on top instead of putting them below the crumble allows them to be more on top of the muffin. If you put the blueberries then the crumble will bake over them. So you really wanna put them right on top as the last step. These look so cute. Final muffin, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna fly these out to 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes. All right, so our muffins are baking away. We're gonna let those bake and cool for a little bit. And while that's happening, I'm gonna make the glaze on top of the muffins. So we're gonna start out with some powdered sugar, and we're gonna add a little bit of whole milk and a little bit of vanilla. That vanilla is gonna make it, just give it that extra little dose of flavor, that hit of vanilla that's gonna taste really good. And we're just gonna whisk this together till it makes the glaze. You're gonna tip when you're making glaze. If you're doing this, it seems a little too thick, you can add a teeny bit more milk. Don't add a ton at once. Just go a little bit, like maybe a 1/2 teaspoon at a time. And if it's too thin, you can add some more powdered sugar. And I love the glaze too, because it kind of gives it another nod to that coffee cake, and the consistency looks really good. It's nice and thin and drizzly, and that's what you want. So we have our blueberry muffins. They look beautiful. We've kind of set the scene like we just woke up in the morning. We have this gorgeous natural light coming in from the window. Our muffins are cooling on this cooling rack. And then we have all our extras around the muffins. We have this beautiful vanilla glaze we've made. I also have some extra of that cinnamon sugar mixture that we can kind of sprinkle around the muffins. And then some beautiful blueberries just for color, just to tell the story of what kind of muffins these are. And hey, I think when you're eating a blueberry muffin, you can eat some extra blueberries. It'd be delicious. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually show you how to glaze the muffin. And just a tip, if you've let your glaze maybe sit out overnight, it's got a little bit of a film on top, just give it a good stir and it will get right back to that beautiful consistency. And I'm just gonna drizzle this really naturally over the muffin. So when I'm glazing these, I kind of want to keep a light hand to it. And I think it also looks pretty if you do a little bit of that crisscross pattern. So maybe adding some vertically to the top, taking a little bit extra, and then just pulling it across the sides. And it's cool too if you have some places where there's a little bit more, a little bit less. It makes it look really natural. And I love how the glaze gets all in the nooks and crannies in the muffin, so that when you bite into it, you get that extra little sweetness with the hit of blueberry. That's so good. These look beautiful. I love the golden color on top. I love the way you can see the blueberries. Those are reading really well. Marvelous. That looks awesome. I'm gonna add a little bit of the cinnamon sugar, maybe around the muffin on the top, just for presentation and for a beautiful photo. Y'all, this is a perfect setting to wake up to. I cannot wait to dive in. But before I do, I'm gonna snap a picture of these beautiful muffins. Look so good. That glaze is delicious. So good. I want to see how you style your coffee cake blueberry muffins. Just tag @PopKitchen on Instagram and comment below. I want to know what you want to see me style next.